Thank fucking God. The season is over. And it was as predictable as we knew it would be because he picked dun dun dun, dun Vanessa over Raven. I will admit that part of me thought that he would actually shock us a little bit and choose Raven. She is kind of a weirdo, which I do appreciate about her. But of course he was going to pick Vanessa. Vanessa was sort of like, aside from Rachel, the clear front runner the entire time. And in terms of like kind of picking somebody who is like accessible and acceptable, she's the person really to go with. Even though I was reading today, because we had a snow day, right? Like, I was doing some deep diving research that Vanessa and Rachel actually got into a bit of an argument when they were in Bimini in the Bahamas. Or is it Barbados? Shit, I don't remember where Bimini was, except I just will always remember that Bimini is actually a thing. They got into an argument there. Apparently, Vanessa was not very well thought of in the house, and she was kind of a bitch, which I hate to use that terminology, but, like, apparently she kind of was. And there was an issue with her and Rachel in Bimini over this issue, I suppose, because Vanessa thought that Rachel was mean mugging her or something. And so she was like, "Why are you doing that?" And Rachel was like, "I just don't really, I just would rather not be around you because I don't think you're very sincere or genuine in your dealings with Nick or with us," and da 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 da. And apparently Vanessa would kind of like go to Nick about the other girls and stuff. And this is from a pretty reliable online source who got a lot of the stuff right this season for what was going to happen on the show. And so this was all cut out from the show apparently because they needed to give Vanessa a good edit. Isn't it that so sad that like Vanessa's actually kind of like maybe not that good of a person? But she ended up with Nick. So I suppose if she's actually not that good of a person, like, and they end up together, stay together, then I suppose that's probably what she deserves. It was a. I don't know if I have very many thoughts. Mostly because I don't. Because it was a boring season. Really. And I don't like Nick. And I watched this a long time ago. I didn't just finish it. I finished it like about 12 hours ago. And I took some time to really think about it, but as it turns out, I don't have many thoughts. So, one thing I definitely did want to highlight, though, is something that happened and occurred this entire season, and that's when women go on dates with Nick, they always run to him, jump into his arms, and wrap their legs around his waist, and I don't get that. Is that, like, I had a conversation this evening about that, and is that something that straight people do? Is that something that men like to have happen to them? Like that people just jump on them so they can like show and demonstrate their strength and their core muscles? I don't think I'd be like adverse to somebody running up to me and like wrapping their legs around me if I was into them. But they would have to be kind of small because I have no strength and I'm not that tall. So I would probably fall over much like a tree. So like part of me is incredibly jealous of Nick that he's able to sort of just take these like sprinting women and balance and keep them upright. But it's not something I just have dealt with in my own life, and so I'm confused. Is this a mating ritual that straight people have? I don't know. Maybe we'll see, like with The Bachelorette, if Rachel runs into all the men's arms, or if we want to buck heteronormativity, they run into hers. Rachel seems like she could be strong. I don't know. She actually was kind of willowy, wasn't she? I can't actually remember her body type. I can picture her face, though, and I love it. So that was my main thought. Really, the entire episode. Like, no joke. I actually thought about that. I actually was thinking, like, because there was a time where I thought that maybe he would choose Raven, and I was sort of upset with the show before it even happened, because I was kind of like, oh, they're trying to give now, like, Nick is going to pick Raven because Raven is an easier person to deal with. They get along so well, and Vanessa's just complicated and complex, and Nick can't deal with it. And then he picked Vanessa, and I was, like, kind of upset, because I was kind of like, what a stupid choice that you made. You guys fight about everything. This is not going to last. You clash constantly. There's a reason why you and Raven got along so well. Why don't you go with her? So it goes to show I just don't like Nick. So really anybody he chose, I would have found an issue with his choosing them. I think it's... Oh, I didn't like either of their gowns when they were going to the ceremony. And I think that's another thing I'm really like wondering about, are that the women must be supplied with the gowns because they have so many. Like if you make it to the final, like this is episode 11, right? Like the finale is, and there's a rose ceremony in the majority of those episodes. So you need to have like a gown to wear, but then on top of that, you need to have, like, if you go out on a fancier date, you need to have an outfit for that. And I'm just really concerned about how these women afford it. So they must be given the gowns, right, by ABC, like they're fitted for them. I didn't like either of the looks that the women were sporting tonight. It really wasn't for me. I also really think that they need to get rid of the whole point where, like, the person who, especially who's going to be rejected and the final two, like, Raven gets there and she pours her heart out to him before he even says anything. And I think that the reasonable thing to do is to just have Nick say, listen, and I think this happened to him. I can't remember if it was with Andy or if it was with Caitlin, where he starts to pour his heart out and she cuts him off and is like, no, like, where this isn't going to happen. Because Raven said really nice things, you know, and Raven is a really nice girl and she seems just in many ways very awesome. So she doesn't kind of deserve to have that compounded sort of embarrassment. If she even feels embarrassed, I certainly would. I don't like it when I tell people how I feel about them and then I'm rejected. That feels like shit. An embarrassed pile of shit. So I just am concerned for that, and I think that this show really needs to stop doing that. Especially because when Vanessa went, he actually poured his heart out to her before she said anything. So it's like, let's give Raven the dignity of not doing that. Not telling him something, expecting that he's going to propose, and then saying all these wonderful things, and then being sent home in a limo. I did watch the final rose ceremony, or after their final rose, except for up to the part where Rachel came back, because I read a spoiler about how she was going to meet like 4 of the Bachelor contestants, and one of them said something really stupid about her being black, and I was just like, oh god, like, we're not going to transcend this, are we? Like, this is going to be a shit show. So I stopped watching after that. Yeah, there's just no way that Vanessa and Nick are ever gonna last. Like, there's no way in hell. Like, this is they'll obviously be together for Dancing with the Stars as long as Nick is on. I don't know how Dancing with the Stars works. If people, I think people vote, like America votes to keep people on. Nick is just not a good guy, and I think America sees this. I like to think, but here's the thing: I always thought his last name was Vial or Vial. It's Vile. I need you to take a second. Just take a second and just process that. That's how you pronounce his last name. Vile. Unacceptable. I bet his parents are, not even his parents, like, I was in the, whatever, I don't care about his parents that much. And his little sister is cute, but it's like, they use her too much as a crutch to make Nick seem like a good guy, because they need that. They need a crutch to make him seem like a good guy. But his, like, brothers were in Finland, and what was even the point? Like, you're gonna ship them out to Finland to have this, like, one-day event happen where they meet the girls? But I bet his brothers, especially because they were on the trip, and his sister are going to be so fucking excited. Like, oh, thank God our lives don't have to revolve around Nick on the fucking Bachelor anymore. Like, can you imagine if your life revolved around the Bachelor? I mean, mine does to an extent, but it's, like, relatively private, right? So, I think that's important to kind of recognize. I mean, I do recap this show and put it online. In a public account that anybody could watch. But the good news is that no one does but you, me, and you. One of the yous is Kendra, one of the yous is Amanda. And Chad, you're also involved in this, but I think you watch it with Amanda Braga, so that still just counts as one view, you know. And, but I know, you know, I haven't made a career of it. And he has. So I will definitely obviously be watching Bachelor in Paradise, because last year made me a convert in Bachelor in Paradise. So I will see Raven there. I guess Corinne's also going to be on it, of course, and Chad most likely will. I hope they bring back the Canadian. Oh no, he was so great and so gay. I don't see. It's just I had more to say earlier today about this whole thing. I think the proposal is a really bizarre concept, and I've actually had this conversation a couple times in the last week. The last time was on Saturday. Just about this whole strange idea that, like, that you need to have this proposal, like, that it has to be this whole thing. I guess it's because I don't quite understand marriage anyway, because up until a couple years ago, it honestly wasn't even something that was in my mind as something that was a viable option for me. Even though I came to my self-awareness of my sexual and gender identity so late, it still like was always kind of like, I don't think this is for me, because I will definitely get a divorce, because nobody's gonna want to be married to me forever. And then I also realized I probably would not want to be married to anybody forever. That's a long time. But the proposal is so weird. Like, why do you need to, like, why does it have to be a thing? Like, if you and your partner are, like, you just kind of know it's the next step, I think that's just kind of nice to just be like, yeah, we just decided together to get married. And obviously, like, it is a decision that you do together, but I just don't, I think that the display of the proposal is a little antiquated. But what do I know? Because forever alone. And let's be real, honestly, like, if I were with somebody and I thought that we would get married, I probably would try to give them the best proposal of all time. So I'm like a total hypocrite, but I accept that about myself in many areas of my life. Today was weird, guys. It was a snow day. I watched The Bachelor. I watched the final rose ceremony after show. I watched the latest episode of Housewives of Atlanta. I watched a few episodes of Girls. I had a very, very long conversation on the phone, 2.5 hours, with somebody I haven't spoken to in a really long time. And it was very nice. But it's also in my head. Like, no, like, not that I imagined it. I've only accidentally hallucinated like one time. And actually, it turns out it wasn't hallucination at all. I learned that later. It actually did happen. I was not going out of my mind and having a psychotic break in that moment. That was a relief to actually find that out. Literally, like, more than a year later. More than a year later? At least a year later. So it was a kind of interesting day. I just had a burrito. It's really late, though. It's almost 10 o'clock. I just ate a burrito. Because I just didn't want to cook. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. But, you know, we're going to gear up for The Bachelorette with Rachel. It'll still be heteronormative as fuck, but at least there's a little bit of a twist. Although, again, now I'm really worried about how race is going to come across on the show. It's going to be horrible. It's going to be horrible. Oh, Rachel, you're so much better than this, and I just want everything good for you, because I think you're awesome. But we can't always get what we want. So I'm going to sign off this season of the Queer Watches The Bachelor without much to say at all about queerness. I've learned much from the mating habits of straight people. I am very unimpressed and, in fact, mostly disgusted. And, you know, we'll go through this again with The Bachelorette, and then most likely again with The Bachelor. It's a vicious, vicious cycle that doesn't give anything to me. It really just sort of makes the world a worse place. But, you know, straight people, you continue to have your absolute faith in this idea that you can find somebody on a TV show. I would like to see an episode, a season of The Bachelor where they really just go on average dates, like your typical date. And to see, like, by the end of it, like, you know how episode 2, all the girls are like, I can't stop thinking about Nick. Oh my god, like, I'm so in love with him. What if, like, instead of going to New Orleans, which everyone and their motherfucking goes to and then falls in love, ugh, fuck you, we went to the diner down the street, and ordered a breakfast burrito. Oh, you are refilling your coffee? Interesting choice. Look at all that sugar you're putting into it. Is this somebody I could spend the rest of my life with? And then, you know, riding public transportation together would actually, I think, be a real big bonding experience. I would take somebody on the subway. Here's what I'm going to do on my next date, whenever it may occur, which is, like, never. Like, let's be real. I am not looking. I did swipe the other day, but it's so depressing. I hated it. Here's what I'm going to do, though, if I ever go on another date. I'm going to go up to 207th Street. I'm going to get on the A with this person, and we are going to ride the A all the way to fucking Far Rockaway. We're going to just take the A. And then we're going to take it fucking back. That is some true intimacy. We are going to stay on that goddamn train all goddamn day. Because that's a long ass fuck ride. And it's the A. So it'd probably break down at least a couple times. And probably run local in at least several spots where it should be running express. So I'm trademarking this idea. I'm actually going to make a dating show of it. If you can stand being around me on the A train from 207th to Far Rockaway, I will propose to you at the end in the most absolutely emphatic, enthusiastic, like ecstatic, all the E's, which is also on the blue line, sort of way. Okay? All right. So I'll see you for the Bachelorette.